Amazing. We are live on both LinkedIn and on YouTube as well now, I believe. Perfect.
Ooh.
We are live on both platforms. So thank you to anyone that's jumping in live. I have a little chat here. So if anyone has any questions for Hannah as we go through, please drop them through. We will have time for a little Q&A at the end. And I want to thank you so much for jumping on with me. This is an amazing topic, and well, it's so important. And I know that definitely something that you talk about a lot. And that was actually what prompted me to ask you to do this, because I'd seen you'd done an IG story all about different phases of letting go and how important that was, because it's a lot of things that you'd gone through more recently. So before we jump into everything, obviously, I would love, Hannah, please introduce yourself, because I'm so happy for you to be here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation and excited to meet all of you. My name is Hannah. I'm from New York. So it's so interesting when anyone asks me what I do. I feel like there's almost this conglomerate of things, but essentially we've built a collection of brands centered around redefining the way that we live and work. So whether we're helping advising startups, when it comes to their marketing, branding, and PR, or we're facilitating one of our retreats at HN Haus, or you're experiencing us physically at this Hudson Studio or this Hudson Farm. We have a very multi-dimensional brand. And really it's at this intersection of life and also work together.
And from kind of your journey back in corporate, that intersection was so pivotal to really the essence of why you started your business. And I know that during this time, from when I first met you, it would have been about 3 years ago now, the brand as itself has made so many transitions since then. I mean, you as a founder, how have you, through the different phases of where you are, how has been letting go? How has that transitioned for you? How has that been through from when you started to now, the topic of being able to let go?
Ooh, this is a really good topic because I think for a lot of people, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you pour so much time, you pour so much money into your businesses. And, sometimes there's almost this regret and or frustration of, oh, well, I just poured all this time and money. Like, why would I let this go? And that usually stems to ego.
Yeah.
Which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs have to work through, and not just the ego of I am good and great, but ego plays a big role in the way that we operate as a business owner. But more so, I mean, for us, with every milestone and every stepping stone of what we've created over the last few years, it has required almost like this slingshot, right? And in order to get to the next level, something has to, I don't know, not quite literally die, but something has to be let go in order to make space to allow for this next growth period. Because the things that might have worked a few years ago, or the way that we were operating a few years ago, might not be the same way that we're going to operate that's going to get us to that next level. And I think that's something that can be true across any different business type. You have to let go of things, people, money, offers sometimes to get you and your business to that next level and next phase.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what are some of the resistance that, from working with the clients that you've got, what are some of those kind of resistant points when you know they need to let go, and they probably know deep within themselves that they need to either let go of a service, whether it's a team member, whether it could be a goal that they've set themselves on, but actually it doesn't align to them. What is that resistance or friction point?
So I think the resistance, like I said, a lot of it stems from ego. It's what are people going to think? Am I a failure if I'm letting things go? Is this going to jeopardize revenue, which that's a reality too. So, there's always the question of if I'm letting go, right? Like I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to step into the unknown. And, as entrepreneurs, as humans, right? Like we crave comfort and relatability, and we crave that routine. So when we go into the unknown, it can be really scary. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I see a lot of entrepreneurs face when they're in that transition period of we want to know the timeline so well. Like we want to know exactly when this is going to happen, how it's going to happen. And in some cases, we don't have the timeline completely mapped out yet. And you have to trust in that.
I mean, and you're right, because I know for myself that when it comes to
Mhm.
I'm trying to look like 5 years, and we always do. We try and look 5
Yeah.
years ahead of where we are now, and that often leads us to comparing ourselves to everybody else, and we can't let go of actually we can't see the things that are happening right now to be able to make that change. I mean, if I'm a founder right now and I am struggling to let go, what might I be experiencing?
Ooh, definitely frustration as to and or resistance. And this could be actually like within your actual body too, where maybe you're thinking about letting something go and you keep holding on and you keep offering that service. And I know that this was something that I struggled with, right? Or making space for our new, tech product that we've been building. I knew that that was going to require that we had to pause things, which for us was BAA, which was my baby, the thing that I created almost 4 years ago, and I had a lot of resistance around that. It was a lot of resistance of like, what are people going to think? And, we've built this incredible reputation. Why are we doing this? And I had to go back and see, okay, where am I playing small and where am I playing at this previous version of myself? And I had to go back and say, okay, this new version of myself, the one that's, building this tech product that could be sold for $100 million plus, how would she act? How would she make decisions? What would she do in this scenario? And that is how I got through a lot of the resistance, which for me was mental, but also physical as well throughout that entire time.
Yeah, it's that balance between knowing that element of, I guess, calculated risk and the hard work that you're putting into this is
Mhm.
gonna pay off, like, almost mirroring that to, what if I don't? Like, what does that mean? And what's gonna
Mhm.
not change if I don't make this decision? And
Exactly.
that that next stage is gonna be so much more rewarding than staying in that space of
Exactly.
I mean, what in your journey, like, some of the other points where you found that you've had to let go of various
Mhm.
different areas of your business?
Yeah, I think this is one thing that I noticed, and this was probably in year 1 or 2 of when we first started, where, when I first started the business, I wanted the big agency and that was my goal. I wanted the corner office, the big team. And I quickly realized and this was in the beginning stages of the business where I had a span of hiring 4 full-time team members in a very short amount of time. And, for a startup business owner that is just getting started, like this was a lot. And it was interesting because after I was going through that transition, I quickly realized I was like, wait, this is actually not the business model I wanted. I wanted more of this diversified business model. And I quickly made a change. And it was one of those things where, of course, there's the, resistance to, oh my goodness, like I just hired all these people. But then also, how is this getting us to the long term vision? Right.
Mm.
So we transitioned our offers, transitioned the team. And it was a really hard decision, but it was the best decision that we've ever made because it allowed us to springboard into what we're doing now, which is in more of our community environments where we host our masterminds and our advisory and things like that. And that's also where I really thrived,
Yeah.
So you go through these things and sometimes you won't even realize like what the actual answer is or next step is until you get to it. And if you're into human design, my human
Mm.
design is like I have to make the mistakes and go through it in order to learn the lesson to then, make the decision from there.
Yeah, and I love that kind of perspective that you put on it, is if we don't know ourselves enough or don't investigate, we're never gonna be able to understand how we will best deal
Mhm.
with it, and
Mhm.
we've got to almost give it that space and breadth before we jump into or expecting that we should know the answer, because often that we don't know the answer until we reach that point, and we've got to take some kind of a chance on
Mhm.
and you're right. I mean, I guess this is probably my next question is, how do we know when things aren't right? If there's not an alignment. You were saying about this frustration, but if someone's like, okay, well, I've made this decision, I know where I'm not aligned, like what are they supposed to do next?
Yeah. So, well, the big thing is, I mean, also understanding your, I don't want to say body type, that's not the right word, but more so like if you're more intuitive, you're naturally going to feel that resistance come up. And usually that's like the trigger point where then it's like, okay, now we know we need to look forward into the next step. So if you already know, okay, this is not working for me, whether it's the business that I'm running, the team member that I hired, or whatever it is, the client that I signed on, and you know what you need to do from there. And this is where like the logical comes in. So it's like
Yeah.
intuition and logical data. And this is where you can start to build a roadmap. And, you know, when you have a coach or advisor or consultant or someone else that you can confide in, where you can say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. These are the blocks that I have. And these are the scenarios that I'm kind of thinking of. What do you think would be a good roadmap, right? This is where if you have that trusted person in your corner, they can at least be a third party perspective to say, okay, here are the different options. Here are the pros and cons to each, and help you identify what the next step is. And that's for me too. You know, as much as I lead with my gut and intuition, I also take a very logical, practical approach. Like at the end of the day, you know, unless you're sitting on a lot of cash as a business owner, cash reserves, like sometimes you can't make those pivots as fast as you like. But maybe it might mean that that pivot might take 6 months or a year. And
Yeah.
at least you can start to put the pieces in place to make that pivot over the course of a year. And for some people, it's faster than others, and that's okay. But you have to trust in your own timeline, not others.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, a lot of your clients have made these pivots. I mean, what can they, from their experience, what have they been able to go on to do from
Mm.
making these hard decisions to let things go?
We've had a lot of clients that come to us that are either A, they're leaving corporate America and leaving very high profile careers. We've had clients who were agency owners or more of like service based business owners that have now transitioned into either tech or coaching or products.
Mm.
People who have group programs who realize, you know what, membership is really the arena I need to play in, and more of low ticket offers. So it's across the board. We have had clients shift and refine what they're doing so much this year. And I just talked about that. And it's really beautiful to see because when it's actually in alignment, that's when things start to compound. It's when it's not in alignment where these things start to happen, whether you want to call it a coincidence or not. And it could be clients leaving, clients not re-signing, team members leaving, or things like that, where like you are pushing against that resistance so much, you know, that the universe or whatever you want to call it is like, okay, you're not listening. So we're going to remove everything from your plate right now to get you to see that. And I've seen it happen time and time again across the board.
Yeah, and there was a really key thing you said, like with all these clients, there's something not aligning, but there's a place that they see themselves wanting to be. And without that kind of vision or that understanding of what that future looks like or that goal looks like, I'm guessing these decisions and these pivot points are going to be really challenging because you're going to be holding on to things because you don't know that there's another way. You don't have that thing in the front of you that's
Mhm.
making you make a decision or a change.
Oh yeah, and you know, this goes for any business, excuse me, business entrepreneur. You need to have a clear vision. And
Yeah.
that vision you have to hold. Not your spouse, not your team member, not your coach, not your consultant, not your agency owner, that whatever who you hire, like
Yeah.
you have to hold the vision because you are in the driver's seat. And if you're not holding that vision, exactly like you said, right? Like if you're just focused on behind and looking behind you, how can you expect to make progress forward? How can you expect to make progress towards the next level? And that's where I always tell, and this is something that I really specialize in because it's very easy as entrepreneurs to get really micro and we focus on the day to day and like the next action steps that get us, you know, 2 steps ahead. But like, let's zoom out for a second and take a look at, okay, the next few years ahead. Like, what does that even look like? What are you even doing? What does your day look like? And so many times when I ask that question, entrepreneurs are like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So I think that's the biggest one is you have to have a clear direction as to what the end goal is. And for some people, they might not know this. They might not know the specifics of I want to sell my business, for X amount of money or whatever it is, but they might know how they want to show up every day. They might know the type of person they want to be. And that's equally as valuable as the business as well.
100%. I mean, even just knowing how you want to spend your time, and that's something that I
Mhm.
know from working with you, that
Mhm.
I didn't even think about what my life would look like 10 years down the line, personally and within the business. And that really just helped cement where the hell am I going? And every decision from there, you know, whether it's a really hard decision or not, you then can align it back to that vision. And it could, there's elements that could change, but ensuring that you are making one that deeply fills you up. And I think that's one thing that I notice, and I'd love to get your perspective on, is I have so many clients that
Mhm.
hold on to these services that just don't bring them joy anymore.
Mhm.
And I see the result of that with their clients and their experience. I mean, from your experience, have you experienced anything, not just with your clients, but for yourself with other businesses, where you've seen this real misalignment and it's then impacted as a negative experience overall?
Oh, absolutely. Because over time, if you don't actually listen to your gut and listen to your intuition as a founder and say
Mm,
you're keeping the service on just because it's making you money, but you really are not happy with it, you are subconsciously going to resent it. And you're going to
yeah,
resent having to do the work. You're going to resent having to pay the team member to go and do the work. And then you're going to start resenting those clients. And then what happens when you resent those clients, right? You're not going to deliver a great experience. And it could just be
yeah,
subconsciously, not intentionally, but you might not even realize it. And then that's where like this like vicious cycle starts. So
yeah,
I think it's one of those things of, instead of ignoring what your gut is saying, ignoring what your intuition is telling you about, you know what, I am really not happy offering the service anymore. Maybe taking a look at, well, why? Why am I not enjoying it? What do I not enjoy? Is it the team member? Is it the service line? Is it the client? Whatever it is, but go through and start asking yourself questions. Far too many times, and this goes for people in corporate America, people who are entrepreneurs, we're just on autopilot every single day, like autopilot from AM to PM. And if you're a parent, you're adding in so much more to this, right? And it's like, how many times you actually sit down and say, like, am I actually enjoying what I'm doing? And
yeah.
it's a really powerful thing to ask yourself, because, that cost is really high. Your time is extremely valuable, and you have to put a value to that. And if that service is taking you farther and or drawing more of your time that you want to use towards something else, might not be worth it, you know?
Yeah. And at that point, it's that transition of there's something telling you to make a decision about it. And I know, and I'm sure you get this feeling of once you've made that decision, it kind of comes in as it's a fear first. There's some kind of butterflies and it makes you feel slightly nauseous. But then when you get to the other side of that, there's this sigh of relief, this
Mhm.
like almost like I don't know how to explain it, like an inner smile that happens where you just know that you are on the right track with that. And it's
Oh,
like opening the best present at Christmas.
it really is though. It's like once you actually trust in that, and whether you're spiritual, whether it's like understanding the universe or God or whoever, but like, you'll get these like signals, you'll get these little, winks at you that you're like, oh, wait, okay, this actually makes sense. Like I was supposed to be doing this. And, to me, that's like more of those reminders that you are on the right path and you are in the right direction of where you need to go. And this also comes back down to also the people you're surrounding yourself with too.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to surround yourself with other business owners who are like, oh, no, 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 like don't make a change. Like things are a little bit wonky in the economy or whatever it is. And, listen, of course, that's within reason, but also you want to expand yourself and, surround yourself with people who are thinking bigger, who are making bigger moves, because that will help you in the transition as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know and I hear so much from the market is there is so much fear and uncertainty. And well, there has been for years. And I almost now, my personal opinion, and obviously this is just my personal opinion, is I physically can't let that stop me from making changes or being able to make decisions because
Yeah.
And I see it from others, is it's like, I don't feel like I can shout about my growth or my success or the decisions I'm making, the changes I'm making, because of
Mhm.
everything else that's going on. But my
Yeah.
argument is, well, if we don't talk about it, the changes that we're making for ourselves, how is anybody else going to know that? I mean, ultimately, that not talking or making those changes or embracing those changes, it's
Mm,
ultimately going to impact the experience you have within your business, your clients, your revenue, and so on and so forth.
absolutely. And you're the queen of that. So as far as client experience goes, I think that's one thing, you can also attest to that, just even being on the back end and seeing
Yeah.
it from like a data metrics perspective.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you can see there, I mean, when we don't put the right quality or the investment, let's say, whether it's we're feeling great about the services that we're
Mhm.
providing, it impacts our margins, it impacts our revenue, because our
Mm,
clients don't have a good time. They potentially drop out, they ask for refunds. So we're impacting revenue at that point. Client satisfaction and client success goes down because they don't end up getting anything out of the services, which then impacts the
mhm,
bottom line. So, and I know you talk about a lot about this. And this was one of the deciding factors. I know that it was really interesting because you sparked me when you were talking about, I mean, really the decision of letting go. And you had this recently where you sold your house to buy your farm. Um, and how
mhm.
was that scenario? And what was I guess, the surrounding of being able to embrace that change to take you to
Oh,
where your next stage of, I guess, Hannah Nieves in her next couple of years? I mean, what was that decision like in the context around that?
and I think this is a really interesting one from like a personal perspective because, from the outside looking in, we had just built, this 4,500 square foot house. It was brand new. It was beautiful. I do miss that kitchen though, but we had everything on paper as to like, what that like American dream is. We've built ourselves from the ground up and built this business and whatnot, and then realized actually, we not that we weren't happy, but it wasn't the house that was fulfilling us. It was the lifestyle, which then started this whole process of looking for a farm. And, when you're an entrepreneur and you are like, or even just in corporate America, wherever you are in your journey, like we live in a lifestyle and an environment where it's so go, go, go. And the expectation is that you hustle. And that can be really damaging and harmful to your nervous system, to your body, to your mind, in so many different levels. And a lot of companies still have not learned the lesson of, hustle culture and like what that does to your team and the culture and whatnot. But that's a whole other conversation. But we really realized that our lifestyle was so important and we wanted a more intentional, slower lifestyle because like our work was pretty intense. So we look at the farm and, granted, yes, we went from a 4,500 square foot house sitting on less than an acre to 160 acres worth of land, which is a lot of land. We have 200 cows on our property with a dairy farmer. We have a donkey. We have some horses. We have peacocks. Like it is a whole zoo over here. And it's quite comical. And we moved from this 4,500 square foot house into a smaller home that needs a lot of renovations. So,
Yeah.
and to most people from the outside looking in, they're like, why would you ever move to a farm? Like, why would you ever do this? And it's more along the lines of, what works for us and like what was going to help us get to the next level of what we wanted to create. And that was also financial freedom from a real estate perspective. We were able to triple our net worth during that time, have cash flowing assets coming through this property, but also we just wanted to have a different lifestyle. So when we start a family one day, which I'm also pregnant now, we could have our kid grow up on this type of, property. So, and for a lot of people, this is not their end all be all. Like there's a lot of people that don't want to have a farm, and that's okay. But I think the lesson here is that like you have to make moves for you and your family that align with you and your vision at the end of the day, not with the vision that society decides for you.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's fascinating. And if you can, and you've done an absolutely incredible job of managing to align and, like you say, redefining the way that you live and work.
Mhm.
That decision is so pivotal in the next phase of you, because you're able to combine the way that you work within and, like you say,
Mhm.
turn what is your now dream home
Mhm.
in essence to actually making you more money by being there and combining the business to create new experiences for your clients within the process.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a work in progress. And if anyone has questions on buying a farm, let me know. I'm happy to chat. But exactly, I think that's like the biggest thing. And now, we just hosted 23 founders at our farm 2 weeks ago, which was so cool. And the vision that I had, and we had people here who are going to be hosting their own retreats and get-togethers. So to me, it's yes, there's a financial component of it, but then there's also the fact that now we get to have other people here and I get to see how they experience a farm from their eyes and
Yeah.
the impact that they make. And I think that is just like such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I almost see it as letting go and embracing that change is almost the birth of something new. It's the creation of a new beginning that you potentially didn't know. It's probably quite sad to
Mhm.
let go of that existing belief or that existing service, that existing offer, whether that's that existing house. You've always got new opportunities that are going to take you to that next level. I mean, before we jump into Q&A, and if anyone does have any questions, please drop them in the chat. If you aren't watching live and you have any questions, drop them through in the comments anyway, and I'll make sure to either answer those or I'll direct those to Hannah so that she can answer those too. I do have one more question, but I would love to know from you if anyone is interested in learning more about you, what you do, and anything you've got going on right now. How should they get in contact?
So connect with me on Instagram, Hannah Nieves, and you can check out my website on there. Depending on where your business is at, from startup level, to multi-million dollar level, we have several different ways of working together, either in a one-to-one group and or even self-paced option. We have a really great Black Friday promo coming up on all of our digital products. What else? And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, just DM me.
Perfect. Amazing. And Hannah is also here on LinkedIn as well. So if you need to, I'll put all her information into the comments so that you guys can connect with her on the various platforms.
Great.
If someone is dealing with hard decisions right now or they're struggling to let go, what can they do immediately when they walk away from listening to this to start putting themselves in the right direction?
So, biggest things I would say is if you know that whatever you're doing is not serving you anymore, but you do know what the next level is for you, find people in your network, whether you got to pay to play, or you have people that can put you in touch with people that can help you. Whatever it is, you want to surround yourself with the people that have made those changes, who have walked the walk before you, because it is so much easier to learn from people who have made the mistakes before you versus you going doing it yourself. That's always the method and motto that I've had myself. So start to surround yourself with those types of people. I'll give you an example. Like when we first started the process of our new platform that we've been building, I was religiously consuming, tech founders, billionaires. I was really fascinated as to like what made them think, how do they make decisions, right? And started to put myself in different types of rooms where I could also get proximity to those types of people as well. So that would be my biggest recommendation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah. And obviously, if there are any comments that come through, please drop them through. I'll make sure that we get to answer those. Thank
Great.
you so much for having me. No, thank you so much for coming on and joining me. It's been amazing to have you on here, and I am so grateful and thankful for your journey and sharing it with everybody here so that they can get a sense of really the essence of all the phases of letting go and how you can transition through it and what it can bring to you on the other side of creating a better experience for yourself in business and in your personal life.
I love that. Thank you so much for having me.